Tanya's life was a relentless cycle of work, worry, and weariness. Each day was a battle against a rising tide of medical bills, a constant reminder of her mother's failing health. Her mother, Elena, had always been the bedrock of their family, a woman of unwavering strength and boundless love. But now, a debilitating illness had turned her into a frail shadow of her former self, dependent on a cocktail of expensive medications to keep the encroaching darkness at bay. Tanya worked tirelessly to provide for her mother, juggling 2 jobs and sacrificing every semblance of a personal life. By day, she was a diligent office assistant at a mid-sized corporation, answering phones, managing schedules, and handling a myriad of other tasks with a quiet efficiency. By night, she worked as a waitress at a bustling diner, her feet aching, her back throbbing, but her spirit fueled by the burning desire to save her mother. The weight of her responsibilities was crushing, but Tanya refused to buckle under the pressure. She was driven by an unwavering love for her mother, a fierce determination to give her the best possible care, and a deep-seated fear of what would happen if she failed. Her days at the corporation were particularly challenging. Her boss, Mr. Harrison, was a man of immense wealth and even greater arrogance. He treated his employees with disdain, viewing them as mere cogs in his money-making machine. He was a master of manipulation, using his power to intimidate and control those around him. Tanya had always tried to stay out of his way, to make herself invisible and avoid his attention. But Mr. Harrison seemed to have a particular dislike for her. He would constantly find fault with her work, nitpicking at minor details and making her feel incompetent and worthless. He would often call her into his office for unwarranted reprimands, his voice dripping with sarcasm and contempt. The abuse was subtle at first, a snide remark here, a condescending comment there, but it gradually escalated, becoming more frequent and more vicious. Mr. Harrison would publicly humiliate her in front of her colleagues, making her the target of his cruel jokes and belittling her in every way possible. Tanya endured the abuse in silence, her pride and dignity slowly eroding with each passing day. She knew that she should stand up for herself, that she deserved to be treated with respect. But she couldn't afford to lose her job. Her mother's life depended on it. One day, Mr. Harrison summoned Tanya to his office. She walked in with trepidation, her heart pounding in her chest. She had a feeling that this was going to be worse than usual. Mr. Harrison was sitting behind his large mahogany desk, a smug look on his face. He gestured for her to sit down, but Tanya remained standing. She knew that if she sat, she would feel even more vulnerable. "Tanya," Mr. Harrison began, his voice laced with malice, "I've been meaning to talk to you about your performance, or rather, the lack thereof." Tanya bit her lip, trying to control her anger. "I'm doing my best, Mr. Harrison," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Your best is simply not good enough," he sneered. "You're slow, you're inefficient, and you're a complete waste of space." Tanya's eyes welled up with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She had to remain strong for her mother's sake. "I'm sorry you feel that way, Mr. Harrison," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sorry isn't going to cut it," he retorted. "I'm seriously considering firing you, Tanya. In fact, I probably should." Tanya's heart sank. Losing her job would be a disaster. She wouldn't be able to pay for her mother's medication, and she didn't know what they would do. "Please, Mr. Harrison," she pleaded, "give me another chance. I promise I'll work harder." Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "I might be willing to reconsider," he said, "but you'll have to do something for me first." Tanya's stomach churned. She knew that whatever he was about to ask, it wouldn't be good. "What do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Mr. Harrison's eyes gleamed with a predatory light. "I want you to be my girlfriend," he said, his voice dripping with lust. Tanya was stunned. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. I can't do that, Mr. Harrison," she stammered. "Oh, I think you can," he said, his voice hardening. "Unless you want to lose your job and watch your mother die." Tanya was trapped. She knew that Mr. Harrison was capable of anything. He had the power to ruin her life, and he wouldn't hesitate to use it. "Please, Mr. Harrison," she begged, "don't do this. There has to be another way." "There isn't," he said, his voice cold and unwavering. "Take it or leave it." Tanya stood there for a moment, her mind racing. She didn't know what to do. She was being forced to make an impossible choice. Finally, she made her decision. "I'll do it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Harrison's face lit up with triumph. "Good," he said. "I knew you'd see things my way." Tanya felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She had just sold herself to the devil. From that day forward, Tanya's life became a living hell. She was forced to endure Mr. Harrison's constant demands and his relentless abuse. He treated her like a possession, parading her around at social events and flaunting her in front of his friends. Tanya felt like she was drowning. She was losing herself bit by bit. She longed for the days when she could simply go to work, do her job, and go home to her mother. But those days were gone. Shayad Hamisha Kilia. Despite her suffering, Tanya never gave up hope. She knew that somehow, someday, she would find a way out of this nightmare. She clung to the memory of her mother's love, and she vowed to protect her at all costs. One evening, Tanya was working late in the office. Mr. Harrison had left for the day and she was trying to catch up on some paperwork. As she was sorting through some files, she stumbled upon a document that caught her eye. It was a confidential report detailing a series of illegal transactions that Mr. Harrison had been involved in. Tanya's heart began to race. She realized that she had stumbled upon something big, something that could potentially bring Mr. Harrison down. She carefully read through the report, her mind buzzing with possibilities. She knew that if she exposed Mr. Harrison's crimes, she would be putting herself in grave danger. But she also knew that it was the right thing to do. After a moment of hesitation, Tanya made her decision. She would expose Mr. Harrison no matter the cost. She carefully copied the report onto a USB drive and then erased the original document from the company's computer system. She knew that she had to be careful, that Mr. Harrison would stop at nothing to protect himself. The next day, Tanya anonymously sent the USB drive to the authorities. She knew that it would only be a matter of time before they launched an investigation into Mr. Harrison's affairs. As she waited for the storm to break, Tanya couldn't help but feel a sense of nervous anticipation. She knew that her life was about to change forever. A few weeks later, the authorities raided Mr. Harrison's office and arrested him on charges of fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. The news sent shockwaves through the corporation and the entire city. Tanya watched the events unfold with a mixture of relief and trepidation. She knew that she had done the right thing, but she was also aware that Mr. Harrison would be out for revenge if he ever got out of prison. As the investigation progressed, Tanya was called in to testify against Mr. Harrison. She recounted her experiences working for him, detailing the abuse and harassment she had endured. Her testimony was crucial to the prosecution's case, and it helped to seal Mr. Harrison's fate. After a long and highly publicized trial, Mr. Harrison was found guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to a lengthy prison term and ordered to pay a hefty fine. With Mr. Harrison behind bars, Tanya was finally free. She quit her job at the corporation and started looking for a new one. She was determined to rebuild her life and to put the past behind her. But fate had other plans for Tanya. As it turned out, one of the illegal transactions that Mr. Harrison had been involved in involved a large sum of money that he had stolen from a wealthy investor. The investor, a kind and generous woman named Mrs. Eleanor Ainsworth, had been devastated by the loss of her money. When Mrs. Ainsworth learned that Tanya was the one who had exposed Mr. Harrison's crimes, she was overcome with gratitude. She felt that Tanya had not only helped to recover her money, but had also brought a sense of justice to the situation. As a token of her appreciation, Mrs. Ainsworth decided to reward Tanya with a substantial sum of money. She gifted Tanya with enough money to pay for her mother's medical expenses, to buy a new house, and to start her own business. Tanya was overwhelmed by Mrs. Ainsworth's generosity. She couldn't believe that her life had taken such an unexpected turn. She had gone from being a struggling office assistant to a wealthy businesswoman, all because she had dared to stand up to her abuser. With her newfound wealth, Tanya was able to provide her mother with the best possible care. Elena's health gradually improved, and she was eventually able to regain her strength and vitality. Tanya and her mother moved into a beautiful new house in a quiet neighborhood. They spent their days gardening, reading, and enjoying each other's company. Tanya also started her own business, a small but successful bakery that specialized in homemade cakes and pastries. Tanya's life was finally filled with happiness and peace. She had overcome adversity, she had stood up to her abuser, and she had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. She never forgot the lessons she had learned during her difficult times. She vowed to always be kind and compassionate to others, and to use her wealth and influence to make the world a better place. Tanya's story became an inspiration to many. She showed that even in the darkest of times, hope can still prevail. She proved that even the most vulnerable among us can find the strength to stand up to injustice and to fight for what is right. And so, Tanya lived happily ever after, surrounded by the love of her mother and the respect of her community. She had found her own version of happily ever after, and she was grateful for every moment of it.